As a person who was grown up in the countries of the Middle East and Europe, I never felt a loyalty towards a certain place. I always wanted to travel and live wherever I like. But most of the people around me were mostly attached to their country and was not really curious about the outside world. For me, it seemed like there's some fish in their tank going like, this is the best place, when there's another aquarium next to them, or an ocean, perhaps. And I was a fish that jumped out from its tank. Years ago from today, I was just a little girl living with both parents and my sister, going to elementary school. And one day, Dad came home and gave us a warm, sweet goodbye and left. It was unusual. Although he didn't tell where exactly he was going to, I knew he would come back, so I just waved at him back and minded my own business. But I was wrong. He never came back. For 3 years, I lived with my mom and my sister. Turns out he moved out to Europe. We could only visit him in winter and summer breaks. But why move out? He told me it was the Turkish government that made him choose to escape. My dad was involved in a religious community called the Hizmet movement. Let's give a quick definition.
Hizmet is a faith-inspired social movement that focuses on education, dialogue, and humanitarian relief. Hizmet began in Turkey as a grassroots community in the 1970s. Since then, Hizmet, which literally means service in English, has expanded globally into a wider social effort whose participants come from all walks of life.
Yeah, that's right. However, it was hated by the Turkish community due to some slanders occurred by the government, such as bombing an area and blaming it on my dad's community. So it created a tension between. However, our community never tried to attack tourism, but the government ended up putting every member of the community into jail, involving their babies and even some that were not even a member but their spouse. Except people like my dad, who chose to escape. He kept moving into new countries month by month, and that gave me and my sister an opportunity to travel to new places, which made me gain more culture, knowledge, and experiences. I was lucky. In 2019, me and my sister visited my dad in summer, like we always did. However, this time, we weren't back home. That summer, my dad was in Albania, so we enjoyed the summer there. But this time, my dad had another idea. So he took us all the way to America. It was my first time in New York. Was it a trip though? Well, on this one night, Dad and his friend were driving, which we thought was to the airport, to go back. I fell asleep during the road, so I couldn't catch up with what was going on. We ended up at the border to Canada, and that's where my whole life has changed. Once I crossed the border with a bare step, now I was a refugee. After a couple of weeks, we finally legally started to live in Canada and traveled to most of its provinces. But my question is, would this story of my life relate to my ethnicity? Could it really shape who I am today? My dad mentioned me about how much he relates his aspects of living to his ethnicity, such as their independence, open mind, and bravery. First off, he is known as a Turkish, but he told me his family root belongs to the nomadic Turkmen tribe called the Avşar people. Pushing deeper into their past, Turks were themselves originally from Asiatic people, meaning they first occurred by one of the largest empires in history, which was founded under the rule of Genghis Khan, such as Huns, Gökturks, and Mongols. Then they had gradually migrated from northern Asia and headed westwards in the 7th century. That's where we accurately see the nomadic culture they had. And it demonstrated how independent they are in their nature, because they non-stop kept moving on to explore. Moreover, they were also open to new cultures and beliefs they explored during their journey. They continued to move south and westwards in the centuries followed before a number of them settled into semi-nomadic way in an area around the Caspian and Aral Seas. However, in the 10th century, a man by the name of Seljuk, who was the leader of one of the clans, decided to break off from the main tribal group and establish his own dynasty. So, he made the Seljuk Empire. because he was impressed by the Persian culture at the time, including their religious beliefs, and that's how Islam became surrounded into their culture, meaning they were open to stay in the land they chose and open to new culture changes. Furthermore, they were quite brave enough to expand their lands. After a long time of having tension between the Byzantine Empire, in 1071 they defeated the Byzantine army and gained control of the Near East, which now is Turkey. Although at that time the Byzantine army was not strong as much as it used to be, it was still known as a strong empire. I mean, historically it lasted really long, so I'm guessing they did think that. But they were still brave enough to give it a go and defeat them. After long time periods, Turkey ended up settled in many states, one of them named Kayseri, which where the Avşar people lives in today. Throughout the centuries, they still kept their ethnic culture's benefits, such as me and my dad today. Now, I see how I could be shaped by their culture, such as them being nomadic by the mindset of being free, open to gain cultural experiences from others, and bravery to stand up when they're in between tensions or under pressure. Well, I could be talking about my mom's ethnic history, but honestly, she is so mixed, so I don't really know what ethnicity to talk about that could connect to stories that I have in my life. So that's why I chose my dad's ethnic history, because it actually associates with the story I mentioned, and it was a big change of my life. So that's why I talked about it, and that's it.